news today. Sam Bradford spoke for the first time since signing his 2-year, $36 million deal. John McMullen from 97.3 ESPN.com was there. We'll get his take. What stood out to him as John, he signs the deal. We talked about the deal yesterday. But today, I really thought the theme of that press conference was him trying to sell everybody that this is where he wanted to be. Did you take the bait?
No, I didn't take the bait. Yeah, everything was right in the world today. Sam loved it here, never wanted to leave, was never interested in wanting to leave, and that's the way you got to kind of spin it, obviously. I think he's happy with certain aspects of the organization. I think he's thrilled that he's going to have a little more autonomy at the line of scrimmage. I think he's more comfortable in a projected West Coast offense. But, he's not happy with the 2-year deal. The Eagles have their concerns. That's why it's short term. We asked Howie Roseman, is this a franchise quarterback? He kind of hemmed and hawed when answering that. So there's questions on bites, and it is what it is, and the fact that this was the best option for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2016 because there wasn't a lot of other options, and that's where we are.
Well, then, there's a couple of things that he really, and he mentioned it multiple times, John. I mean, I told my agent at the end of the year, I want to be here, get it done. He said he didn't really care about the length of the contract. He made a joke that, I'd love to be 100 years, but that wasn't what was important to me. He was really trying to get this thing started off on the right foot, but he did mention that Peterson playing the position and his ties to Shermer, that the offense might be similar. That sounded like it was a big plus for Bradford coming back to Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was, and that's the West Coast part of it. And he at least, because remember how much change Sam Bradford has gone through in his career, dating back to St. Louis with the constant moving of coaches, offensive coordinators. It was system after system. He obviously wasn't a true fit for what Shelley wanted to run, no matter what each side would tell you. That's not what he's comfortable with. And he's far more comfortable with this type of offense, and there's a lot of similarities between what Pat Shermer ran in St. Louis and what Doug's going to run in Philadelphia. And I think that was one of the aspects that Doug Peterson talked about. And he's a guy I think who really propelled this forward because I think he wanted Sam back, and he saw him as it for his offense. And he did his best to make Sam as comfortable as possible, saying, you're going to be for this, and it's not learning another completely new offense. You've done a lot of this stuff. And I think Sam kind of bit in on that.
Yeah, John. But another thing was, he said, now that I'm back for a second year, I'm looking to build on what I did as a leader. I feel like he mentioned stability, that stability breeds success. There are some feeling that, he liked the guys around here and that he wanted to keep on, like that he thought that he had some pieces to work with and he wanted to give it another shot here.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly got more comfortable. I think there was a lot of talk about his second half of the season, and there should have been because he was much improved, and that's what got him this deal. But that's also a little bit overblown because it's a completely new offense. Chip Kelly's no longer here. The spread offense with the read option looks is completely out the window. So we're starting over from square one as far as the offensive system goes, more to as I said, a West Coast system, and now it's going to be a lot of nomenclature. It's going to be that big playbook as opposed to running the same plays again and again. You'll probably see that sort of study guide on the forearm where you have the 14 pages of plays. So from that aspect of it, it's more difficult, and that's why I think Doug Peterson was trying to allay some of those fears and saying, you've already done this. You know these players, and Sam talked about possibly working out with Jordan Matthews and Zach Ertz in the offseason if they can get it together, whether it's in Oklahoma or somewhere else. So that's on the table. And remember last year, Mike, Sam didn't have a chance to work with anybody because he was still rehabbing from the ACL injury. So I think that gives him a lot of confidence, too, in the fact that he's completely healthy and he can do some off-season work to get ready.
Well, so often, even with a guy like Brady, that first year after the ACL, they're back, but they're not the same guy. I guess if you're looking for a reason to feel that those 7 games at the end of the year are more attainable, that what you just said right there, John, makes you feel the best, is that the offseason is not spent rehabbing. It's spent working out with his receivers, with guys, learning the offense, so that when he gets to training camp, he's not – the questions aren't about him limping around and whether he's ready. It's about, all right, let's see him get out there. And quite frankly, I think Chip Kelly maybe did him a little disservice by not playing him very often in the preseason, or was that maybe just because he wasn't able to?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. Obviously, if he was out there, and we all go back to that Green Bay game where he played so well and it turned out to not mean much, the fact that he was out there proved that he was capable of being out there, so he probably should have played him a little bit more than he did to shake some of the rust off. But there was no doubt at the beginning of training camp, day one, he wasn't ready. So this is a guy that was on the cusp of that rehab, and it's going to be much different this time around. He's going to be able to do a traditional off season as far as getting ready, and so that part of it, I agree with you. That's a bright side. And the second part of it, even brighter, is the fact that this offense fits his skill set better than Chip Kelly's offense. So I think, if anything, from that standpoint, he'll be more comfortable in the offense. He'll have a chance, as we said, to work out properly in the off season. And the third, he could barely hide his giddiness to say now he can go up to the line of scrimmage and get the team out of bad plays if they're in a bad play. He's really excited about that part of it because he wasn't allowed to audible under Chip Kelly.
Yeah, I heard some good things today, made me feel like, all right, I'm willing to give Bradford a 2-year, deal. I'm willing to give him, because I think so much of this with him, John, he's such an enigma in this league, like built-in excuses all over the place, injuries, bad player, drop passes, bad systems, coaching changes. I think now it's finally like, okay, I know he's got a new system again and a new coach, but I feel like we can finally start to judge him and find out who he is. And I think that this is probably the best situation to do it in right now for him, being in the same city with the same players, virtually the same group of guys around him. I think we finally can get a picture of who he really is, because I don't know that picture is really defined yet.
Yeah, I agree. Continuity is so big in this league, and we always point towards Western PA and Pittsburgh. They know it better than anyone else and have had more success than anyone else because they stay the course, even if there's a few speed bumps. And you mentioned Sam's career, and sort of the Eagles as a franchise have gone off those rails as far as the continuity goes. Sam, not by his own fault, by injuries, as you mentioned, and coaching changes, everything else. Now he finally gets to stay in one spot. Hopefully you have a coach here for the long term, and he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself. So the excuses have kind of been taken off the table. So we can finally figure out what Sam Bradford is. What is he truly a number 1 overall pick who has the potential to be an all-pro quarterback? Or is he just another guy? I think finally we're going to get a concrete answer to that without all the justifications, whether it's the supporting cast, the changing of the coaches, the injuries. This is it. He's got a chance to earn either a heck of a lot more money, or this will probably be it for Sam Bradford. Not that anyone should feel sorry for him, because even if it is, he's made a heck of a lot of money in his NFL career.
No, and I agree. I think, and I've said before, John, I was supportive of the trade. I got the trade. Maybe, you might think, well, you can't give up that second rounder. I think when you get a chance to take a shot at a guy that you feel could be that a high-level quarterback, a second-round pick, if he turns out to be a top quarterback in the top 10 quarterback for a second-round pick, you win that deal. When you have a starting quarterback for a second-round pick, I think you win that deal. So I'm okay with the trade. I was disappointed in his play, but I saw enough to make me feel like, you know what, I'm willing to give him another shot. That being said, with him here now, and I said this yesterday, are they relevant? Are the Eagles a team that you look as a rebuilding team or a relevant team? I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but do you look at them as rebuilding or relevant?
They're definitely relevant. A lot of it comes to the fact that they're playing in a bad division, and there really isn't a team that you look at and say, how are we going to compete with them? We all saw it last year. I mean, if we all talked in August, we were probably saying the Redskins were going to be the last-place team. I know I was. And 99% of the other people were. And all of a sudden they win the NFC East. So they're relevant with Sam Bradford in that division. There's a chance they win 9 games, win the division, win 10 games. And then you go from there. Obviously, if Sam can put together a tremendous season, catch lightning in a bottle, then we start talking about extending the contract even further. But as a whole, the Eagles are trying to serve two masters here. There's no question about it. They're trying to be relevant, and they're also trying to get the long-term fix at that particular position. And Doug Peterson was asked about drafting a quarterback, if that's still a possibility. And he said he didn't come out and say it, Mike, but this was some of the biggest news of the day, but he intimated that it's probably off the table at number 13. But they're going to bring one in at some point, whether it's the 2 third-round picks, whether it's later. And it's evident by the fact that they only gave Sam a 2-year deal. He can say it didn't mean much to him, but it does mean much. It means the Eagles aren't sold that he's the long-term answer. So they're trying to serve two masters, but they want to win the NFC East next year. Is that the best way to go about it? We can debate that, but that's certainly what they're trying to do.
Did Peterson speak to you guys afterwards?
Yeah, he did, and Howie spoke. So both of them kind of gave their opinions on the signing, and some other news. Connor Barwin kind of confirmed that he's going to be moving to defensive end. Doug Peterson confirmed that training camp is going to remain at the Novatere complex, so there's no going back to Lehigh or anything of that nature. So there are a little nuggets besides Sam, but that was obviously the news of the day, and a lot of it speaks to what they're going to do in free agency and the draft. And I think at least if Doug Peterson has his say, it probably means the Eagles are going to go at a different position at number 13 overall.
Well, and that's another thing with this signing for 2 years, John. It almost allows them to fill the holes in other areas because they feel they have a capable guy. They can draft a guy maybe in the 3rd round. They do have 2 third-round picks this year. Let that guy sit for 2 years, and then when they hand the thing over to that guy, that maybe they are a 9-7, 8-8, 10-6 type of team, but the holes are now filled. They don't have to reach for a quarterback in a draft that maybe they don't love a guy in this particular draft for round 1, but maybe there's a guy they're intrigued with for round 3.
Yeah, it's a possibility, and it's always been the case. You kind of know from where they are, 2 of the top 3 projected picks at quarterback are going to be gone. And while we all assume that maybe Paxton Lynch will be there, even he might be gone before number 13. So all of a sudden, if all 3 of those guys are off the board, well, you're not going to reach for Connor Cook or somebody like of that nature. When you have so many other holes on the roster you have to fix. So I think this gives them, if Sam Hinkie was talking, it gives them optionality, and they're not forced to kind of do something that we all assume they have to do. So that's part of it. And obviously they need to rebuild the offensive line in front of Sam Bradford, so that makes a lot of sense at number 13. They still need to add talent in the defensive backfield. For Jim Schwartz to get everything done that he wants to do. So it does open up avenues of thinking, and that they can go in a number of different directions now.
John, I want to get to some NFL stuff as well. Free agency, there was a lot of big names today. And of these names released, I don't know if you know them off the top of your head or when you saw some thought, oh, good fit for Eagles. But there were some bigger names today. Roddy White was one. Also, we knew Jahari Evans a couple of weeks ago. Brandon Brooks, a pretty good guard. Also, Arian Foster, which I don't think would be a fit here. But any of the names that were released today or the last couple of days, you think, all right, that guy might be an interesting fit for Philadelphia?
Well, I think the one guy that would be a tremendous fit, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, was Mario Williams, just because he's got proven success and a proven track record under Jim Schwartz. But while I say that, all the names released over the past 2 days are veteran players, and that's not what the Eagles are looking for. They're looking, as most NFL teams, they want those guys who are coming off their rookie contracts that still have the potential to go forward in their career, not descending guys who are going to cost more money than they want to spend. Remember how many contracts Howie's already done. There's not going to be big money available to the Eagles to go out and make splashes for some of these big names. So I think if fans are expecting that, they're going to be disappointed. We talk about the safety position. We mentioned before Eric Berry got franchised or Eric Weddle, those big-name guys, Reggie Nelson. You take a guy like Weddle, who's 31, you take a guy like Reggie Nelson, who's 32. That's not what the Eagles want. If you look at the guy who ran next to Reggie Nelson in Cincinnati, which is George Iloka, he's a 26-year-old guy coming off his rookie deal. That might be the kind of guy they target. Maybe not quite as big a name as Nelson or Weddle, but that's the type of player they want to bring into this organization right now.
John, of course, at the press conference today, 97.3ESPN.com. He has plenty more on Sam Bradford, the press conference, and John will be making the rounds on the radio, of course, all over the country talking about this. It's a big deal. People in the NFL are talking about this, the Sam Bradford deal, and we'll see where that fits in. But also some big names were released today. As we talked about, Arian Foster, one of them, Roddy White, and as John just mentioned, a couple of guys there. So we'll keep our eye on all the NFL news and notes. For more from John at JF McMullen on Twitter and over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Busy day, John. Thanks, pal.
Hey, thank you, Mike.
And, of course, every day at 4:05, John McMullen here on the Sports Bash. Great job, covers the Eagles. He also covers the league nationally for today's Pigskin. The guy never